What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream. Excited to see everyone. And yeah, apologize in advance for this setup, for everything really, for starting the live stream way earlier than usual. You know, I know. Usually we start streaming at 9 p.m. Today we are starting way earlier. I know about that. I know, okay? Let me know if you can hear me correctly. Let me know if you can see me correctly, because everything today is different. I'm literally streaming from this microphone, which you might be able to see right here, and I'm also thank you. And I'm also streaming with my camera from iPhone, so you should see me like way better right now, with a bunch of coloring and with a bunch of cool stuff. You know what I mean? It's all fine. Thank you. Nice to see everyone as usual. You know, some new faces, but also some of the usual people here. Ducatan as usual. Joel, nice to see you. Back with Snacks, nice to see you as well. Gover, Calvi, and Josh, nice to see you. Zordmax, welcome to the live stream. Roni, Luis, and welcome everyone. Today we have a different live stream from the usual. First of all, I'm literally from an hotel room. This is literally an hotel room, so it's not my home. You know, the setup is different. My camera is different. My microphone is different. So I thought about making something different and literally bring someone else to the live stream. So I decided to invite my good buddy, Josh, developer rail at Laravel. What's up, Josh? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Nuno. It's good to be on your stream. You always have like so much energy. So now I feel like I have like an energy drink so that way I can keep up with you.
All right, everyone. I think everyone knows Josh at this point. If you don't know, Josh is developer rails at Laravel and developer rail at Laravel, but also he's like pretty much a famous YouTuber at this point, way more famous than me. So, chat, just say hi to Josh. And people are saying that they just came from another live stream, and now they are seeing you right here. So you literally just did a talk on the Laravel meetup, right? What was it about?
Yeah, the Laravel worldwide meetup. I got to talk about something I had like discovered about a year ago, which was Mingle JS, which is basically like the ability to use React or Vue components, but push them into a Livewire application. Super interesting stuff.
Wow, dude, I have so many questions already about that. By the way, I'm a big fan, and I'm also a friend of João Patricio, which is the creator of Mingle JS. So, but yeah, I have so many questions. I do know that Mingle JS is kind of combining the power of Livewire and Inertia, both together in one single application. But I feel like I want to focus today's live stream on kind of understanding the differences between Livewire and Inertia, where they are coming from, what is your favorite stack, but also like why would you like to combine them both together in the same application. So yeah, I want to start by talking a little bit about you, Josh. What is your background, Josh? Like before joining Laravel, what are you doing before that?
Yeah. So my background before joining Laravel was I was very front end focused. Laravel was the first like server side. Yeah, Laravel was the first like server side application thing I'd ever touched. Other than I had done some stuff with like Firebase and Supabase and stuff like that. And so not touch any like MVC, not even any PHP. I had background in basically like most of like the companies I was working with. I wasn't even working as a developer. I was mostly working as a sales engineer, which is just a weird way of saying like a developer who talks to salespeople. Or I was working as like a support engineer, like trying to fix bugs. And most of those were just all like React libraries and some Svelte stuff. And so that was kind of like my back end, learning as much front end stuff as possible. So Next.js, Remix, Svelte Kit, and Nuxt were a lot of like the stuff I used. And usually like I never really did too much back end stuff. It was more of like talking to Supabase or like Firebase, and then like I didn't touch Laravel until one of the applications I was building about 3 years ago. I was like, I needed to run a job. I wanted to basically talk to AI or like get in a request from AI, but I wanted it to be like like ask AI a question, and then after that response, take that response and ask them another question. And like the way I had learned how to do development within like serverless functions, stuff like that, that was almost impossible. Like it's hard to do like any kind of like serverless synchronous jobs or even like asynchronous jobs and stuff like that. And so that's when I came over to Laravel, I was like, oh, this makes it super easy. I just tell it to, after that job's done, take the information and push it to another job, and then I don't have to do anything.
Now you are surprising me a little bit, because so you coming from that front end background a little bit.
Yep.
Because I thought you were like a Livewire guy at this point, and you are, right?
I am. Like, yep. That is my stack of choice. It's really interesting, huh?
Because I mean, I saw you doing Volt and in a bunch of Livewire, so meaning that you are literally one of those who have converted or were converted
completely
from a JavaScript front end totally to do entirely Livewire. So let's start by that. Literally, like, what made you so much fall in love with the Livewire stack?
Yep. The thing that made me it's helpful to know that background. I didn't have any back end experience. It was mostly just all, here's my React component. And if I wanted to do something on the server, usually if I was using Firebase or Supabase, it'd just be a client side interaction that hit the server. It'd be like, hey, make this to do, add this to do or something like that. And so when I moved to Laravel, I didn't like, I tried, like the first application I actually built was with Inertia and Vue. And it, like, obviously it's amazing. It works great. I loved it because I kept using Laravel, but it didn't make sense in my head to write controllers because I didn't come from an MVC type background. So I didn't understand of like, okay, if I just want to do something as simple as, delete an item in my database, now I have to post to a route and then have a controller. I can do it in the web routes, of course, too, but then I best like have a controller and like delete it. It just didn't make sense in my head. So when I don't think I actually started using, or Livewire didn't actually click until Volt came out. When you released Volt in, I think that was Laracon Nashville, I think, right? Was that?
Yeah, or like I still remember that day very well. I can tell you why afterwards, but I still remember very well the day Taylor announced Volt. Yeah. By the way, chat, while Josh is answering, write on the chat, like, what is your favorite Livewire API? It is the functional through Volt or the classed one. Write on the chat that. What you were saying, Josh? Apologize.
No, yeah, you're good. Like my favorite, I go back and forth. I like them both. I'm probably more familiar with class-based just because like when I'm reading through the documentation, it's easy to apply something I'm looking at as a class-based and a Volt. But yeah, I don't think Livewire actually clicked. I think it was Chris Sev who was telling me, oh, you should try Livewire. And now Chris works at Laravel too. But Chris, when I was using Inertia with Vue, he was like, you should try Livewire. And I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but I didn't like I have my PHP class and then my Vue. I was like, that's still like too much separation for me. I don't like switching files. I don't like doing all that. So when Volt came out, I was like, this is cool. I'm like, this is the next thing, because I, as a JavaScript person, liked having all of my server logic right up there, kind of like a Vue template, or like a Svelte template. And then I have my Vue, and then I don't have to like switch things. Everything is contained to one component. And that's what made me switch over completely, was like, okay, I'm doing everything in Livewire from now on. So it wasn't even like I think Volt basically made me learn PHP in a lot of ways. It's funny to say, but
that's crazy, man. That's crazy, man. I was just saying that I still remember the day so basically I'm going to tell the story. Okay. So basically like 4 months before Laracon, I was literally working fully on open source, you know, a little bit different from now, which I'm like fully focused on Laravel Cloud. So I was fully working on open source, and you know, typically 3-4 months leading up to LaraCon, what typically happens is that Taylor starts to kind of collect ideas of things he wants to see in LaraCon, you know, this sort of deal. And I remember like Taylor was more focused on Folio, and I was like the one focusing on Volt. And I remember like I worked my ass off on that thing. I also paired with you know, with Caleb on that as well. We end up actually moving the Volt repo from Laravel to the actually Livewire organization. And I still remember like Taylor announcing that on stage, and everyone was like, what the heck is this shit, you know? Because something we need to understand is that there is a few of us who are like constantly on Twitter, you know, live a little bit on the edge with these functional APIs or React or Vue. And for us, that sort of API was totally natural. It just clicked for me, you know, probably in the same way that just clicked for you. However, from people who are used to a little bit, you know, kind of the traditional way of developing applications, they were like, what the heck is this shit? Like for me, it's already confusing seeing PHP code and Blade code in the same template, but now like literally seeing functionals like back in the days, and you know, the reactions were a little bit mixed, basically. But over time, what I have noticed is that more and more people are literally converting into the to the Volt API. So we see people using the class class API, but also the functional API on Volt. You know, I've also seen, for example, Caleb also using, for example, in his own apps, Volt himself, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and I think what actually sold me on Volt specifically was, you know, I had watched as soon as because I had used Livewire a bit before Volt came out, but I wasn't like it was just it was a similar tool to me as Inertia, where I was like, okay, this makes sense. There's nothing like, you know, I loved Livewire and like it was still Livewire 2, but when Livewire 3 and Volt came out, there was something about how one of the things that kind of sold me on it was when Caleb would do, like, when he would demo Livewire, most of the times he was using a inline component within Livewire, where you have the HTML right in the class. And then I was like, okay, now it's just exactly the same, but in a Blade file instead of a PHP. And so like that is what made me, like it made most sense to me, because as he was like demoing all this stuff, he didn't have to switch to a different file, and then you're remembering, okay, what did I call that method, like all that. Of course, like there's great tooling now that can like help with some of that. You can know like what, you know, specific methods names you actually called it. I think that's what really sold it on me, was the fact that and why I love Livewire is like as a tool, it helps build things out much quicker, at least right now to me, than if I was doing it within Inertia. Like within like a Volt component, I could like pull up one and just be ready to go.
If we were to put the things on the table, like literally Inertia versus Livewire, you would say that something that Livewire has better, at least for you, or for the way you build apps, is that you are faster with Livewire. Am I right?
Yep, I would say so. I'm faster with getting an idea out on a page.
Gotcha.
And probably in production with Livewire than Inertia. And that might be, I know that that's kind of like a double-edged sword of like, it's because I'm also really familiar with it. So it's like, oh, if I was to look at like the Twitter UI, I know exactly, my head already knows like, okay, if I press this heart button, I'm going to send a method to the server, and like then I'm just waiting for if this heart is reacted, you know, kind of thing. And I know and it's probably like half because I know how I do it within Livewire, and maybe I'm not as familiar with you know with Inertia.
I can tell you that I know exactly how to work with both frameworks, and undeniably you are always faster with Livewire. You know what I mean? So that's my overall feeling. By the way, chat, thank you so much for being on that side. Do not forget to, if you have any questions or anything, I do have a question for you, chat. So what is, like, do you also think that Livewire is faster, or you think that you reach the same level of productivity with something like Livewire? Write on the chat, what is your opinion on that? Mystery, thank you so much for becoming a premium sponsor on YouTube. I really appreciate your support. By the way, if you just arrived and you don't know me, my name is Nuno Maduro. I'm a PHP and Laravel developer. I love what I do, and I'm streaming every single weekday, typically at 9 p.m. Today we're a little bit earlier because I got the chance of speaking with Josh, who just came out of being a meetup speaker directly to this stream. It was very kind from Josh, by the way. Welcome, Ivo, Ducatan as well. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. Mateusz is saying Livewire forever. I get you. I totally get you. What else we have here? There is a few people as well, Josh, who have never used anything else besides Livewire. So I'd like to introduce the next topic, which is something that I also feel like, if you are coming from a Laravel background only, like if you are used to build apps with Laravel, but also with Blade, I feel like you will have the same opinion as me, which is it's definitely also faster, not only building with Livewire, but also learning Livewire. Am I right?
Yep, I would say so too. Yeah, I also take like the other side of the coin too, of like, I know a lot of people who are from the JavaScript ecosystem and who are like, oh, they know React really well and they know Next.js really well. And I also think, just as I think it's really easy for Laravel, if you're working within Blade, it's just kind of a little bit syntax sugar on top of Blade in a lot of ways. But I think also it might be easier. This is my kind of like one of my hot takes. I think it's currently easier, and this might change with Laracon EU maybe, but I think it's currently easier for Laravel, or for people who are wanting to get into Laravel who have a JavaScript background, to use Volt, whether with functional or class-based, depending on what they like, than it is to use an Inertia app. That's my hot take.
Interesting. And why would that change a Laracon EU, by the way?
I think there might be something coming out from Aaron Francis that might help. That might change my opinion, might change my hot take, kind of thing. So be on the lookout for that. For people.
I think I know what Aaron Francis is building, but I don't think I know exactly what he's doing. You know, I don't think I know exactly what he will present at Laracon EU. By the way.
Yeah, I don't know all the details, but I know that's probably going to change my hot take. I can say that.
Interesting. Let's see some of the comments here. We have Mateusz, who says Livewire forever, which is also saying that the tall stack is, in his opinion, the best way to get an MVP live. So Josh and I also agree with you. Mami is saying, I never tried Livewire, but I'm familiar with Inertia. Got you. Claudio is saying, recently I have remade my personal blog using Livewire and I really liked it. And, you know, I will ASAP remake the admin panel using Livewire as well. Interesting. Muhammad is saying, in terms of getting stuff into the table, Livewire is fast, but when I'm thinking about bigger applications, I would like to prefer as a full page component. Interesting as well. People are also coming from the Laravel World Live Meetup, Josh, so they are kind of seeing Josh twice today, which is kind of cool. Gorbodev is saying that Livewire is tricky with reactivity. Okay. Who else we have here? People love the speed of Livewire, and also now with Flux. Josh, have you tried Flux already?
I have tried Flux. I love Flux. I have a starter kit that I built specifically for like my demo applications that uses Folio, Volt, Flux.
Oh, you build your own starter kit?
Yep. Basically one that I could be like, hey, let me just.
By the way?
It is. It's called it's Josh. So github.com/Josh Siri/Fission FISSION.
Vision starter kit. All right. Flux, Livewire, Folio, in Laravel. Very interesting. Yeah. I think I'm gonna wait a little bit for the starter kit story, you know?
Oh yeah. Me too.
Yeah, there is so many stuff coming up that I feel like I'm gonna wait a little bit now, you know? Interesting. Yeah. You were saying?
Yeah, this was one that I built. You know, because I realized, anytime I would make a video, I basically needed, you know, 80% of things I would consistently keep doing, especially like when I want it to look good, even if I was not showing off anything, front end stuff. I wanted to be like, okay, if you click this button, it does something on the back end. And so I built that starter kit so that way I could just like, for my own stuff, be like, okay, I know exactly how it's set up. Most of the time I would use Breeze before, but now this was like, it's basically like a Breeze knockoff with Flux.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I also started to build my starter kit, but I stopped once I found out that Taylor was bringing new starter kits as well. Yeah. So I actually started to build a starter kit doing like, fully actions pattern, using reverb for reactivity on the front end as well. Inertia 2 mixed, with React as well. But then I found out that Taylor is doing like the starter kits, which probably will serve me very well, to be honest. So I literally stopped doing that. We talked about Livewire and how productive we can be with that. What is the disadvantage of Livewire if you had to name one? I can tell you one. I can tell you one to make you
go for it.
I can tell you one, or the one I think is one disadvantage. So I have built applications with both Inertia and Livewire. So I know exactly how they, in terms of code, how do they feel, but also how do they feel on the front end as well. I do feel that Livewire does have an SPA effect a little bit, but Inertia does have it a little bit more, It feels more SPA than Livewire. Would you say that? What do you think about this?
Yep, I think you're spot on, because I think that could be one of them, because especially I think, and a lot of the times it might not be specifically Livewire's fault, but if you're like me, most of the time, like I default to using a method in Livewire if I want to do something, and then when I'm like, this is slower than it needs to be, then I'll just put like a wire loading, and then maybe it doesn't even need to be a server thing at all. It should be like a client side, like maybe like Alpine. So I think like by default, it's easier within Livewire to do only server-driven events when they shouldn't be. And I think like that's what makes it easy to write slower or like non-SPA heavy, non-SPA feeling type of applications. So I think that's completely true, because I think, I can't think of like a specific example off the top of my head, but like in my Laracast course that I built, we built like a podcast listener app, and like it loads a stream from the back end and then plays it. But if you wanted to pause it, like your initial reaction would be like, okay, I'm going to tell the backend to like stop the stream or something, but that's not really doable within PHP. So usually it's probably best on the front end. Well, then you end up writing like a whole bunch of like Alpine JS and like
I know
tags.
So, to literally go within your opinion. So I also agree with you, and I also think that when you are building with Livewire, that means that you probably don't know a lot of these animations, a lot of these optimistic updates, a lot of this knowledge that typically you need to have to deliver that SPA feeling. That's why we typically see more applications that look like an SPA, but don't look like an SPA more than the Inertia ones. So I get that. I know exactly what you're saying, and I also agree with you. It must be because of that. And, so that would be definitely one of the disadvantages of Livewire if I were to compare that with Inertia. But shifting a little bit the topic to Inertia now. I'm going to give you straight my opinion about Inertia. Okay. So I feel it's definitely slower to get started with Inertia than it is with Livewire in terms of, if you were to learn Inertia from scratch, it's kind of a pain a little bit, in the sense that you need to learn either React or Vue to begin with. And then you need to kind of learn the tiny bits that you don't know about Inertia, because, it's easy to develop with Inertia, but you kind of have to learn some of the tiny bits, some of the tricks, literally, when developing it with Inertia, like defer some loading sometimes, make sure you don't abuse of the shaded props, for example. you know, and I also feel like, I'm going to be really honest with you, I have built applications with Inertia 1 and built applications with Inertia 2, and I feel like Inertia 2 is in a different level. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how people were doing apps with Inertia 1 to begin with. Because Inertia 1, in my opinion, this will be controversial, but Inertia 1, in my opinion, was kind of broken. You know, there was a lot of little bugs here and there which, you know, made it, for me at least, almost impossible to have it working with something like Reverb, for example. So Inertia 2 was kind of everything I ever wanted from Inertia. So Joe actually made a great job porting some of the bug fixes I want into the framework. Just to explain you one very small bug, which was so annoying for me. For example, you are navigating between pages with Inertia, for example, and if you were to issue a reload, and while that reload is happening, the user is clicking on a different page, the reload would come back and kind of would cause a flick to the user where he would go to the next page and come back to the original one, for example. So this is just one small example, but I feel like Inertia 2 is really, really, really powerful. What do you feel about Inertia at the moment?
I think Inertia, kind of going back to like Inertia 1 to 2 is like a similar jump to me when I saw like Livewire 2 versus Livewire 3. Like they're just completely in their own worlds now of like they are the best of both worlds. And I think like the weaknesses of, or the reasons why I usually choose Livewire over Inertia are the reasons why are also like its greatest strengths in a way, because I think what I love about Inertia is it's because it's separated more than a Livewire application where you have, I'm pushing this all into this React component. And then if I need to do something on the server, I need to call a controller and make that happen. It allows you, I think, to write this code that feels so native, but without having to give up anything within Laravel. And I think one of my, like, there's so many great features about Inertia 2 specifically, but I think things like the defer function, as well as being able to defer individual components is so nice. Like being able to pass like specific props and then say, I want this prop to be loaded separately. And so then you have like 5 things popping in at once. It just makes it easy to build modern applications. Because like that was my biggest thing with when I first started learning Laravel and Inertia was like, it didn't make sense in my head that every single page wasn't necessarily, it was one thing with Inertia 1. It was like, okay, if I'm loading a dashboard, that is a dashboard component, a dashboard React component, but then I could have individual React components with that. Yes, but usually you pass your props into that dashboard component and then pass them down. So you're waiting for something, 3 layers down to load, but then your whole dashboard is kind of like waiting to load, and that didn't make sense in my mind. So with Inertia 2, it brings it to a whole nother level, just like you said.
I totally agree with you. I was just thinking, for example, like that little thing also Tim McDonald shipped, which is the aggressive prefetching, something that also, people were just asking on the chat, by the way, which is, are you building Laravel Cloud with Inertia? So the answer is yes, I'm building Laravel Cloud with Inertia 2 in React. And something that I felt on when Joe was pre-building or had the alpha version of Inertia 2, something I asked Joe was like, oh, dude, every time I'm doing a new deployment on Laravel Cloud and I'm navigating through the pages, I'll need to wait for the components to be downloaded, And that was so annoying because, because I would, do deployments quite pretty much every day. So the user was like navigating on the website on Laravel Cloud, and it was every single time he had to wait for downloading all the components individually before being able to navigate, like to see the page itself. So I just asked him, McDonald, dude, can you just make this stuff like download whatever you need to download for that first render, but then in background, just fetch the entire deal, you know what I mean? Just fetch the entire application, all the components. So everything after that is super fast, which, you know, I feel like features like this one made Inertia 2 so much better than Inertia 1, in my opinion. So on this topic of disadvantages and advantages, so we talked about the SPA feeling, we talked about how easy it is to get started versus something, you know, like Livewire. What else could we speak about this? Like literally, in terms of disadvantages in advantages, we could speak perhaps about maintainability. I do feel that I do end up writing less code with Livewire. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think you end up, especially within Volt specifically, like I feel like I write less code and I know where everything is contained. And I think like Inertia makes this pretty easy too, because like you know where those pages are kind of coming from. But I think where like the disadvantage of Livewire could come into play is on once you start getting into a big code base. Like if you were to rebuild cloud within Livewire, one, you'd use a lot of Alpine JS and probably like you could probably make it like match pretty well, but it would be very difficult.
It would be very difficult. Yeah, we have a bunch of JavaScript at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Laravel Cloud at this point has the same amount of JavaScript code than PHP code at this point, because the UI, there is a bunch of interactions, you know, a bunch of little things and a bunch of transactions, a bunch of toasts, a lot of stuff to really have a nice look and feel. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think like
you were saying, go for it.
Yeah, I think like I think where Livewire, like the it's kind of like one of Livewire's like strengths versus weaknesses is like Livewire's strength comes in the fact that you can build really quickly. But maybe once you get up into like, you know, thousands of lines of code, then you're thinking, okay, you know, okay, now I have like these 10 different components that need to talk to each other. You're dispatching a lot of events. You have to start refactoring a little bit more within Livewire, I think, than Inertia. In Inertia, it's a lot easier because you could just add a new React component and then make sure that that data gets passed down. I think Livewire makes it harder to maintain on a scalable level, and that's like kind of like if you're saying Livewire is easier to ramp up and then it starts to fall off, Livewire might or Inertia might be harder to ramp up, but then it's a lot easier to maintain, I feel like, in the long run. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I have never built a front end which not end up being complicated to maintain, you know? Because I feel like there is always this question of, do I literally copy paste this entire component, or I do add another option, you know? And what ends up happening is typically people don't want to copy paste code, and you have this component which accepts 12 props, either on Livewire or in Inertia. It just, you know, ends up being a huge component which accepts 12 different props, and it's always complicated, you know, versus like on the back end, for some reason, maybe I'm more experienced with it, it doesn't happen to me. You know what I mean? Just a quick discussion with the chat here. DevTalks, thank you so much for the premium sponsor on YouTube. By the way, I have awesome news for everyone regarding YouTube. I just launched a second channel and a third channel, okay? The second channel will contain, you didn't know that?
I actually didn't know that, no,
Yeah, so
now I'm going to have to like match you and like launch my own second channel or something.
Nah, I'm still a little bit away from you, I think. But yeah, I'm going to just post here my other two channels if you guys want to check it out, okay? So it's literally Nuno Maduro is my main channel at the moment. We also have Nuno Maduro 2, which will contain at some point clips from the live stream, okay? So my goal is kind of having really good content on the main channel, clips, and, you know, any kind of secondary content which I don't feel it would belong to the first channel because of the quality of the way it was recorded, perhaps, you know, will kind of go to the second channel. But also, I have a third channel, which is strictly Portuguese. You know, people have been asking me for this stuff forever, which is literally record stuff in Portuguese. So I have now a third channel, which only contains Portuguese content, okay? Which is, I think it's very exciting. Claudio is asking me if you will be at PHP Day, Josh. A PHP Day is a conference in Italy, by the way. So I guess you won't, right?
I will not be there. That sounds amazing, though. Maybe whenever it is, I might be able to. Maybe I'll make a vacation out of it or something.
Yeah, Italy.
But I'll probably not. I'm going to Laracon India with Nuno, though. So
yeah,
that'll be my big trip.
That's right, Chad. Me and Josh, we are both going to Laracon India, and we are very, very excited about that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to record some content together.
Let's do it, dude. Now I have all this equipment. I don't know if the chat have seen, but I'm literally recording with a portable microphone, also with this tripod, with my iPhone as well. So I have a bunch of ideas. I don't know if this will work or if I will have the courage to record, which is probably something you will have to teach me, Josh, which is, I don't know how comfortable I feel just taking my iPhone in the middle of a conference and just start recording myself. What's up, everyone? Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
I've not done that either, so we'll see.
It will feel super awkward, but let's see how it goes. What else we have here? Mohammed is asking, what is the best way to use Livewire? It's a full page component or a small single component? That's a great question. I'm going to tell you my experience. Typically I don't like full page components because I like to contain the area of reactivity of my Livewire as much as possible. So if I have to re-render the entire thing, I want to avoid Livewire the most computation as possible. What is your take on this one, Josh?
Yeah, see, that makes sense. Like, I understand why you do that. I like full page components just because the ease of being able to put something on the screen, kind of like what you're talking about. And mostly it probably comes from the fact that I didn't really write that much Blade. So like when I learned Laravel, I learned Blade through Livewire.
Oh, okay.
And so there's so much that I'm kind of like trying to relearn in the sense that Blade components are crazy and you can do so much with them. And Blade itself is crazy. Then you can do so much not having to touch Livewire. I just reach for Livewire full page components and really like a Volt full page component because then I know everything that is on that page is in one file. And I don't have to like jump around when I'm like, okay, here's my Blade that renders the Volt, and then I have to make sure I'm passing down the props. I like having it all on one page, mostly just for DX reasons. I get what you're saying though about like you have to wait for it all to load. So that's the downside.
Yeah. It's probably over optimizing, to be honest, in my side. But it's just something I'm used to. Sometimes people think, I have told my chat already, sometimes people think that some of these decisions are like very theoretical and I have give a lot of thought into it. It's probably that is a very good reason why is he doing that. It's not. It's just the way I'm used to do things. And I have, sometimes decisions in real applications happen this way. It's just the ways you are used to do things. That's why you choose Livewire, or you know what I mean? It's just basically because of that. What else we have here?
Yeah.
We have Rika who's saying, finally able to join you live. Welcome to the live stream. I watch all your videos. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the contributions. Props from a Laravel programmer from Portugal. Welcome, Rika. Welcome to the live stream. I have a question, Josh, which also comes from the chat.
Yeah.
What do you think about HTMX? Have you tried it or not yet?
I have tried HTMX. There was a short period of time last year. I forget when. I have a couple of videos on my channel about it, but I tried HTMX because I wanted to see like, okay, when would I reach for this versus Livewire, for example? Because I feel like there's in a similar vein, I wouldn't reach for HTMX over Inertia because if I was choosing Inertia, there would be a reason for it. And I came down to the conclusion that I think HTMX is great. There's another one called Alpine Ajax that maybe if you're used to Alpine, feels very similar. I think the cool part about HTMX that is great is you kind of have that backwards compatibility in the sense that because this is almost impossible to do within Livewire and probably almost impossible to do within Inertia. But if I wanted an application that I wanted to work without JavaScript, you couldn't really do that with Livewire. it'd be really hard to do.
Mm.
Because you could technically use like some wire offline and like show just a blade form if you wanted to. But within HTMX, it kind of has that progressive enhancement stuff that everyone kind of likes to talk about, where it works fine just as a normal server rendered blade, or when you click submit on a form, it just swaps that element out. So that's what I like about stuff like HTMX and Alpine Ajax. I think it'd be interesting to hear your take, Nuno, because I think I did a video talking about Livewire, like infinite scrolling, and I think within Pinkery, you have to use Alpine Ajax to do infinite scrolling.
So I actually the infinite scrolling I have on Pinkery is fake one. Actually, it's a fake infinite scroll.
Okay.
So it does look like an infinite scroll, but the only thing I'm doing is literally incrementing a limit of the number of posts I'm returning. So because the amount of HTML I'm returning from the response is so low, I'm actually able to afford people doing infinite scroll until like 200 elements. It's actually okay. And nobody actually scrolls until 200 elements. You actually need to spend, a lot of time scrolling to see 200 elements, because if you load like five more elements each time you scroll down, I mean, it's a lot of scrolling. So at the end, I just display something like, oh, you have reached the limit of scrolling, search for something instead, or something like that. So I have literally a fake infinite scrolling on Pinkery at the moment. And back then, when I was studying a little bit this, I noticed that actually infinite scrolling is a real problem in Livewire because of the reactivity. When you need, for example, to click on the like button, or you need to answer to a post which is not on the latest response of the infinite scroll, actually there is a bunch of, small issues that come with that. So I just thought, oh, I don't care, man. I'm gonna literally just fake this thing so it looks like infinite scroll, but it's not. It's not. But man.
That makes sense.
Just to close a little bit on this topic, because I do have to go in it a little bit, I want to ask you, you just talk about Mingle JS, okay? Mingle JS has been in the wild for a while, no pun intended, but just for people who don't know, what is Mingle JS, by the way?
Yep. So Mingle JS is written by a guy named Patricio on Code. I think he's in the chat as well. Subscriber of Nuno, great guy. But it is basically the ability to serve React or Vue templates, Vue files within a Livewire component. So let's say you create a new Mingle component. It's essentially serving a Livewire island, a reactivity island, but React or Vue template squished inside that island. So now you could, pull in any React properties or components or libraries that you might want, but you have the functionality of like also talking to the server methods. So essentially think like where Inertia is the glue for Laravel to a Vue or React or Svelte template, Mingle JS is like the glue for a Livewire class to a React or Vue template, where you don't have to write a controller. If you wanted to like call a method, you just write that method in Livewire and then call it from like using props on your React or Vue component. So super nice, super out of the box kind of thing. But I like where it's going for sure.
Just to clarify, what you are saying is that I can have Pinkery in Livewire, but if I want to have a feature which is called analytics, like you click on the Pinkery post and you want to see like what is the amount of views over time, I can potentially use Mingle to use a React chart library on that given page. Very interesting. Exactly. Very interesting.
I feel like that is like the best use case for it. Personally, I like there's probably a great bunch of use cases for it, but it's one of those things where like, if I'm building a Livewire application because I like how it builds up, but then if you've ever looked for, plain vanilla JavaScript charting library, or even like a, I can't think of another kind of library, but like any kind of JavaScript library, even if it's plain vanilla JavaScript, it still takes a bit to like make it work within your Livewire Alpine application, because then you got to like mingle you got to like you know, merge the data together in Alpine to make sure it's synced with Livewire and all this.
I feel it's just in something in the middle, not to cut you off, but I do feel like Alpine is great, but once you have more than 3 lines with Alpine, it just becomes super messy real quick. But keep going, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because you have like the wire entangle, like you have stuff like that where you could like, okay, I'm accepting stuff within Alpine JS or my script tag and then do it. It can be done, especially if you're just using it on one component. But if you have like a bunch of charting libraries for like a dashboard, I think that's where Mingle JS shines, because essentially you just plop that into your Livewire app. You don't have to like rewrite your whole application, or like, I don't know if it's even possible to serve an Inertia JS app for one page. Probably is. I haven't tried it. But I think it's great to be able to say, okay, my whole layout is a Livewire app. But then just one section, I have Tremor JS, which is like a React charting library. And then I'm pushing data to that React component, and I don't have to worry about how to actually fit React in. It just kind of works.
Very interesting, dude. I immediately understand the use case of this Mingle JS library or framework. It just speaks to me immediately, and I would see myself using it, because I did, you know, even on Pinkery, I do have a few use cases where, you know, for like a notification library on React or any other sort of thing, I would potentially refer to something like that. So what are the disadvantages, if any, by the way?
I think the disadvantage is similar to like what a disadvantage would be within Livewire, for example. Kind of like what we already talked about in some ways. It's like you get into that framework of things within Livewire where either you have too many components or maybe not enough, and you're pushing everything into its own component. I think within Inertia and React, it's a little bit easier to say, okay, each one of these is a separate React component, and then it's all on one Inertia page, for example. I think within Mingle JS, you kind of have to be more cognizant, and within Livewire in general, I think you have to be more cognizant of like, okay, when am I actually talking to the server? How do my components talk to one another? And I think there's some great stories and some features of Mingle JS where you could say, okay, one Livewire component dispatches an event and my React component can actually listen to that, which is great. But I know that probably can get super complicated if you have like looped React components probably intertangled with Livewire. So I think it's great for one-off, but you probably, just within like any Livewire application, once you get to a bunch of different components, it could get complicated.
Yeah, it can get complicated. Gotcha. Yeah, Mingle JS seems awesome, by the way. I'm going to make sure, you know, I tweet about that project so you guys can find out more a little bit about that. And I'm going to also probably try Mingle JS sometimes on this stream. Something that I got out of this live stream is that I want to try Mingle JS, but also try HTMX. I haven't actually tried HTMX ever. So my overall feeling is that it will feel a little bit like Ajax back in the days, but I will have to give that a try for sure. Josh, thank you so much for coming to this live stream in such a short notice, because I literally asked Josh to come to the live stream 5 minutes or 10 minutes before starting the live stream. So, dude, thank you so much, dude. I catch you next time, okay?
Thanks so much, Nuno, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
See you next time. Chat, say goodbye to Josh. Josh is awesome. I'm going to make sure I also send the link to Josh, his tweet. Catch you next time, Josh. Peace out. Oh, chat, that was awesome to have Josh here on the live stream, by the way. You know, it's always so cool to have like literally new people on the chat to speak with Josh, but also to speak with some of the people I really like. You know, I'm a big fan of Mary, but also a big fan of Josh. You know, I hope some days I can reach his numbers, but also his quality on YouTube. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Chat, I apologize in advance. I didn't ask how everyone is feeling today and if you are having a good week so far. I can tell you that at the moment, I'm literally traveling to Laravel EU, okay? So there is a bunch of stuff happening during this week, but also during next week, okay? As you guys may well know, or if you don't know, this will be a new thing for you. Literally, Taylor Otwell will announce the date of Laravel Cloud during LaraCon EU. Okay, so there is a bunch of things I need to take care of, but also a bunch of work to be done during this next few weeks. But also, I'm traveling at the same time to LaraCon EU, and I also want to record a bunch of content for you guys. So if for any reason I miss a live stream, or if for any reason I miss a YouTube video per day, you know why. It's literally because of all these things happening at the same time. Josh, that was really nice to have you, man. Thank you so much for coming. Let's, collaborate a little bit more in the future, okay? But yeah, DefMute, welcome to the live stream. I think I have raided you, at some point. So welcome to the live stream. Really nice to have you here. How you doing? Rika is saying, I'm using HTMX in a side project, and I choose HTMX because at start it was simpler to do things like a table with a search and filters and stuff. But now the application is growing, and I'm thinking about changing to Inertia, which probably makes sense. I feel like HTMX can be really useful to literally get stuff done. If you have an application with 2-3 pages, even better, you can probably stick with HTMX. But when you want to work with really full applications with a dashboard, with a bunch of pages, Inertia provides a little bit of more flexibility and maintainability over time. Shuduk is saying, hi Nuno, I already followed you from your Portuguese channel. Thanks for your amazing content. Thank you so much for saying that, by the way. But yeah, I have now a Portuguese channel, which is kind of crazy. I never thought I would actually make content in Portuguese, but people were asking for that. So literally I tweeted about doing a Portuguese channel, and people were like saying, I think that's an awesome idea, just do it. And I actually did it. So Nuno Maduro 3 is the name of my Portuguese channel. DefMute is saying, that's it, I read on Twitch. It was a pleasure to discover your channel as well. Thank you so much, dude, and also thank you for creating Laravel content on Twitch. The more we can have, the better, okay? But yeah, folks, I do have to end the live stream to have some dinner with friends in Lisbon. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for enjoying, this time with me and Josh. I love to speak with people that I truly love on the Laravel ecosystem. If you have ideas of people that you think they would love to be on this live stream, if you are someone that actually also would like to be here, do not hesitate. Maybe we can have you here as well. Thank you so much for coming to this live stream and for all your support. And I catch you guys on the next live stream, okay? That being said, see you next time. Peace out.